Jan Blachowicz did get the win over Aleksandar Rakic and did look pretty good, especially in the first round, and I guess for as long as the third round lasted. Rakic having a pretty strong second round, but having a really bad injury. We're not exactly sure what the extent of it is and when he'll be back, but Rakic falling to the ground, grabbing his knee in pain. He was not hit in that knee. It just kind of buckled under the weight of movement. So Blachowicz gets the win, BC. I guess my question is, what can you really take from this Blachowicz win, even though it ended so weirdly and so matter-of-factly?
I was surprised, Luke, by how much in the end I could take from it. I didn't watch this live because of the competing boxing match at the same time. Heard the result, assumed it was this abbreviated, like, oh man, we were just getting going. And that certainly is true. Two very fun rounds. This looked like we were on our way potentially to something big. I mean, they were letting their hands go, but also, tons of strategy and technique. But here's what I learned in the end. That although this is just bad luck for Rakic and, he's already vowed to come back and he's going to be scarier and better than he ever was. And no doubt, Luke, I think as long as he's not compromised by this injury moving forward, I think he's going to end up getting his title shot and proving to us how good he is. But what we learned that Jan Blachowicz is still that dude. That was not him against Glover Teixeira. We've talked about that many times. Lost the belt. It's always tough, especially given his age, to bounce back against a killer who's looking to get his own title shot. And I thought he looked great. Yeah, he got that stiff jab that cut him below his left eye to early in the first round. And even though it was a pretty competitive fight striking wise, those leg kicks in particular, dude, it looked like he was chopping Rakic down. And it seemed also that when they did land big power shots, that Jan's was showing more damage or showing to be harder potentially. I learned everything that I needed to see that this guy could still win back this championship and that he's still the same dude, Luke. How about you?
I mean, it's hard to know exactly how that fight would have gone because could Rakic have continued, again, injury notwithstanding, could he have continued to get the takedowns, maybe won that way? Maybe there's some kind of opening up of a brawl in the fourth or fifth round or something like that. Because to your point, like they were throwing pretty actively, pretty consistently. This was not it was a technical fight, but it was not a reserved fight by any stretch of the imagination. But dude, I'm with you a little bit on this one. Like there was a lot I did like from Rakic. I've been high on Rakic for a long time. I really respect his game. His wrestling looked to be on point and his top control is good. Like if he gets you down, there's a good chance you're probably going to lose that round. He keeps guys down once he gets it. And so in that second round, you saw a lot of evidence of that. And I also want to say that I thought that he was doing a little bit more on the feet to try and find, like he wasn't being too reserved on the feet either. He was actually trying to land. But dude, to your point, Blachowicz is still very, very, very tricky on the feet. He destroyed the lead left leg of Rakic. It looked like he had been hit with a pan that had been heated up first. So not only was there the impact of it, but there was this weird bubbling that grew on the front of his left leg. It was terrible. And by Blachowicz, even though he was eating a lot of leg kicks, he was checking a lot of them. He didn't have nearly the same amount of damage. He did get cut over that eye, but this is the point I wanted to make. Rakic still seems like he does the majority of his best work with his boxing, and Blachowicz simply denied him that. So on the one hand, I can very much understand Rakic's position, which was, hey, this fight was just getting started. It was pretty even. All true. All 100% true. But it also looked to me like Blachowicz was in a rhythm, was feeling it, looked a lot better than he did the last time, even though he was dealing with apparently a car being stolen and all kinds of illnesses and everything else.
And his asshole, too, Luke.
Yeah, he had some serious problems, apparently. I'm just trying to point out, dude, he looked like he was dialed in and ready to go. And I agree with you. I think if he can, we'll see what happens at UFC 275 with Glover and Yuri. But if Glover wins that, to me, even though Glover kind of ran over Blachowicz the first time, I don't know that I would expect that the second time.
Yeah, and I like to see already that Glover, who we interviewed, you can see that on Wednesday, already tweeted out, and he doesn't tweet often, Luke, something he told us during the interview, or at all, it seems, but he did tweet out that if Jan got that win against Rakic, and they mentioned on the broadcast that he would give him a title shot if he was able to get past Prochazka, and yeah, and I think it's deserving, because this was a win, technically, even though it was, an injury, but it was also a win, as we just mentioned, and Luke had this fully evolved into that brawl that you said, it looked like it could be heading to. I think it was going there because of the leg kicks, and I think Jan would, even without the leg kicks, I think if you stand and brawl with Jan, the Polish power will kick your ass because it's enough technique, it's good timing, there's enough hand speed there, despite his age. Like, I don't think that was the type of fight Rakic was. I think, obviously you saw that he was going to have to be more balanced, but I think he was getting pushed into that war, and I think the stoppage was potentially going to be there for Jan. But either way, I think we can all say this was a win. Yeah, dude. I think I'd rather see him fight for the title off of this than have to run through Ankalaev also, Luke. You know what I'm saying?
Let me stick with the fight for just a second. How much improvement did you see in Rakic's game? We knew his takedowns were good. We knew he had some good striking. But did you see? What did you see?
I liked a lot of what I saw. In fact, I liked the combinations that he threw early. They were hard. They were accurate. They popped. I do think, though, that he was, obviously the leg strikes were a big part of it, but even separate from the leg strikes, when he got himself into exchanges with Jan, I don't think he could wear the damage as well. I think that it compromised him. I think that at times it it forced him to shoot. And while he did have success getting the takedown, he wasn't able to do too much with it. I like the well-balanced effort from him, but I think he's still figuring out the recipe, so to speak. So even though this, again, has potential to be a disastrous injury, depending on the recovery and the severity of it, but if he comes back and is that same guy, I still think he's got stuff to add. And it's the kind of thing we said, would he come out in this fight and drop the safe, boring label that sometimes he gets, whether it's fair or not, and let his shit go? For the most part, he did, and I liked a lot of what I saw, but I still don't think he's ready yet. I still think we got to see a little bit more.
That's where I came down as well on this one. He's obviously he's physically quite ready for the championship level, and I think his wrestling is ready for the championship level. But the thing that kind of got me, and this is not like wrong, I don't want to suggest that it is. The thing that I walked away with, though, is in the first round, it was pretty even through the first half. I'd say Blachowicz still got the better of it, but it wasn't like Rakic was out of it. And then as each minute kind of wore on, you began to see that like Blachowicz was pulling away is a strong word, but clearly being like to me, the first round was Blachowicz's round, and it was more true in the second half of the round than it was in the first half, but true in both. And then in the second round, you get the takedowns. Here's the thing for me about this. It's like, dude, if things aren't going well for you on the feet, having something, and not that they were going super poorly, but again, that leg was getting torn up. But the point I'm trying to make is going to the wrestling, having that secondary gear, that's a great thing to have. Please don't misunderstand me. In fact, it won him that round, and if the fight had kept going, it is at least quite conceivable it could have won him the fight. The point I'm trying to make, and I think it's what you homed in on, is he has not reached his potential yet. He has not really fully maximized his game yet. And the part that kind of got me was, while it's nice to have that ace in the hole of the wrestling, the part that I've been waiting to see catch up a little bit is the striking. And I did see some of that growth here. Obviously not enough because the fight got called short but due to the injury. But the point I'm trying to make is I did not see quite as much growth in the striking. Not so much that he couldn't win this fight. I think that was still in play. But to like really win the title, to really be that guy in this division, no, I think there's still some work that has to get done, and that his coaches probably know that. I'm sure he knows that as well. So while I did think he put in a very, very commendable effort, and again, won a clear round against Blachowicz, it's the idea that the wrestling has kind of become his game when I don't know that it ever really fully was that way. And what I would want to see is, if he really wants to be a title contender, the striking is by no means bad. There's nothing bad about it, but it's not quite where it needs to be for it to match the dominance that his wrestling brings to the equation.